Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It's Saturday, September 25th, and welcome to Conversations with Calvin. And a great understatement to say how thrilled I am to have Ronnie Marmo here. And Ronnie has written. There's so much to unpack. Has written a play. I'm not a comedian. Lenny Bruce. He acted in other things. He wrote, and he's the star and the producer of this amazing play. I've been a huge fan of Lenny Bruce most of my adult life. If you all look behind me, there's a great picture of Lenny exercising his finger. I met Ronnie Marmo back in 2010 when he was at the Edison Valley Playhouse, because and he was in a play about Lenny Bruce, and I went to it, and then of course he'll tell his story. I'm not gonna, you know what? I'm done with my Johnny Carson monologue. There's so much to unpack, Ronnie. What a thrill just to be here with you. I know you're coming to Jersey on October 8th and 9th to the VOGEL at Count Basie. You're bringing back, I'm not a comedian, I'm Lenny Bruce, which I've seen a number of times. And your work is amazing. And you are Lenny Bruce. As Kitty Bruce said, you're the only one in 50 years who got Lenny right. So take it away, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Calvin. Wow, you're. I think we should end the interview. We went to. I mean, what are you going to say after that? Thanks, Calvin. You're amazing. You're always so supportive, and I appreciate that. And I love what you do, and you have such a passion for what you do, but also for Lenny. And whenever I meet somebody who not only has a passion for Lenny but gets it, it's just so inspiring to me. It's like it kind of reconfirms why I've given my life over to this guy in a lot of ways, artistically, And so thank you for that. Yes, you saw the play. Now you saw this version. The one you saw in Edison Valley Playhouse was called Lenny's Back and Boy Is He Pissed. And that wasn't mine. You know that, right? I did someone else's show. I wrote this one because I wanted to push the envelope and tell the whole story. The other one was great. And it actually was my window into this brilliant man in a real way, not on the surface. But I had so much more I wanted to say and tell, so I wrote my own, and I wanted to show the warts and all, as it were, So, but I'm happy, and I'm thrilled. We opened 2 nights ago in LA. It was the first time I had performed the show in 557 days for an audience. And I was stumbling all over the stage, but I think in typical Lenny, he was too, so maybe it's okay. And we'll see, Joe came out, my director, Joe Mantegna, who's, Tony winner, one of the great actors. Yes. And one of the greatest men I know. But he was there. He's always there. I mean, that's what's so special about this show. It's interesting when you do a play, and I direct a lot as well. And so when you direct a play, you come opening weekend, you take some notes. You may come back the next weekend, and then you let the actors go. And every blue moon, you might have to come in and shape it. I've now officially done 332 performances.
Wow.
And Joe has seen 150 of them. I mean, this guy just keeps coming. It's like the biggest cheerleader, the best. So anyway, thank you for Calvin for having me on.
Oh, no, it's such a thrill. Part of it's not my mission, but a little bit of my mission. Anytime I see you and the work you do, and how I try to jump in, and I've read enough. I'm not an expert, but it's funny. I listened to prepare for you. I've done my history of comedy. I told you that. I watched the history of comedy, but what I'm trying to express is Lenny Bruce. So many young people don't know who he is, but he's an American hero. Yeah, he used bad language and stuff. And had all kinds of battles with the law, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But he's an American hero, and he fought for freedom of speech like nobody else. I have to read this quote from Rain Pryor. That's Richard Pryor's daughter.
Yeah, she's a friend of mine. We've become friends.
Wow,
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. I mean, what a great person.
wow. Yeah, I almost met her in person. She was at this um, event up in North Jersey, and I couldn't get to her because there was too many people around. But she said, and I think this is so important, because Richard Pryor, one of the great comedians who ever lived, just beyond. She said, and the message is more people need to know about Lenny Bruce because how he influenced Richard Pryor and others. But she said, my dad would say, if you only knew Lenny Bruce, and I didn't understand that until much later from my dad, that was kind of beginning of speaking truth to power politically and consciously. Lenny lit that fire. So Richard Pryor is you feel that too.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, Pryor is one of our greatest comics. I mean, he may have been the funniest one, you know what I mean? Like even beyond Lenny, because Lenny was brilliant and he was funny, but not always, you know? And but Richard Pryor was like, I remember, you know, taking my dad's records when I was a little boy, like putting them on, listening to Pryor, giggling, you know, it was like, this guy was brilliant. But Rain is a big supporter of the show and of mine and vice versa. I think she's a really talented lady. She does a one-woman show, very funny show. And she's brilliant. And I appreciate that, you know, Rain, Kelly Carlin, Kitty Bruce, those ladies have really carried on the legacy of their dads in a really special way. And I'm glad to know them, you know, and have their support. So, but she's right. You know, Rich, you know, Lenny Bruce, he changed the world, really. I mean, he was, he wanted to hold a mirror up to society. Yeah, you said bad words, but you know, his whole point was, what is a bad word? What it's the intention of the word behind the word that gives it the power, right? So like, what is a bad word? Why do you get to say that is a bad word? It's how we use those words and the intention with those words. So it's really an interesting study. Last night, my audience was full of young people. It was incredible. A few people never heard of Lenny that was in the audience. A few people only saw him on Maisel.
Right.
So it was really cool. Last night, most people were young people. And I was, you know, when that happens, it's just, you know, I get excited about that, you know, so.
You just said Maisel. I watch that show because, you know, that's my time. This is kind of an impromptu question for me, but is Lenny represented like perfectly there? Is enough given about Lenny to I mean, this is mainstream television.
No, of course not. The answer is of course not. Here's the pros and cons, right? The pros is that they're talking about Lenny Bruce. A whole world of people now know his name, know that he was a comic. He was more than that, but you know he was a comic. So now so many people have been made aware of Lenny Bruce because of that show. The actor Luke Kirby does a good job. I mean, look, he does a good job with what he's given. The show's not about Lenny. So therefore, you know, is he portrayed perfectly? I guess within the material, they're doing their interpretation of Lenny.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know, the difference is like the first play that I did, which I loved. Again, no, I don't have any, you know, anything negative to say, but it was a much more easier, softer, gentle, safe version of Lenny Bruce. And my play, you know, I start the show dead naked on the toilet, and I don't let up for 90 minutes. And so that's my way of saying, like, no, you're going to meet Lenny Bruce tonight. You're going to meet the whole man tonight, you know. And so I love Maisel. I love what they're doing. I wish I had a shot at auditioning for that role, but you know how that goes. Whatever's in the stars is meant to be. But I'm grateful, and I Michael Zegan came. Plays Maisel's husband.
Right.
He saw the show and he was blown away. Gave me a beautiful quote about the show.
Great.
And I'd love Luke to see it and see what I'm doing with it. But you know, who knows if that'll come to fruition. But anyway, but yeah, I dig the show. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad Lenny's a part of it. I'm happy for Kitty that, and I'm happy for the foundation that it's getting that kind of exposure because of that incredible show that everyone loves. But like, I think you should come see the show and meet Lenny Bruce. I mean, you could speak on it. You watched that show and you've seen my show.
Yeah, I have. I mean, it's night and day. It's you are Lenny. I said this to you. I've seen enough stuff on Lenny, and I've listened to enough. I look at the picture of you that I have. That picture I'm going to use. Picture of you next to Lenny, and you're both holding microphones, and you are. To me, I'm haunted. No, really. And I'm a spiritual guy. I'm haunted because you are like the reincarnate, and Lenny must be so thrilled. And it's a good segue. You do a lot of work with Kitty,
Yeah.
and her foundation. If you could kind of mention that.
Yeah. The Lenny Bruce Memorial Foundation, which you could find us at lennybruce.org. I'm on the board, and I'm very proud of that. And what we do is whatever money comes in, a piece of the ticket sales, by the way, if you buy a ticket, a piece of the ticket, all the merchandise, any donations, all the money goes, 100% of the proceeds go to putting people through rehab who don't have insurance. And so it's really quite incredible. People who don't have insurance, we can help. And I know we've helped some people already. I've gotten videos from, young 20-something-year-old young men who said, now that Lenny's foundation has helped me, I'm sober now 18 months. I kicked heroin, I kicked whatever. So we try to be helpful and help those who are in need. And so I'm proud to be a part of it. And Kitty Bruce runs the organization. It's her life's work. She takes it very seriously, and she inspires me to do the same. And so if you're trying to figure out what to get for Christmas, maybe a cool Lenny shirt, you're also helping somebody. So
which I'm going to do.
Yes.
I am going to do that. I should actually. I'm stupid. I should have had it on right now.
Oh, that's okay. We'll send it to the show. lennybruce.org, and every shirt is cool because it has a different quote on the back, a Lenny quote.
Okay. Oh wow. Oh.
And so they're all amazing. Some are a little,
Yeah, that's all right. I sometimes I just don't think quick enough on my feet. I should have. I knew I was doing this, and I should have. I should have. Well, I'll have it, and I'll throw it out on social media for folks to see. So, I'm not a comedian. I'm Lenny Bruce. How did that title come about?
Well, it was a direct quote from Lenny. There were nights he'd get on stage and he wasn't funny, and he wasn't trying to be. He was trying to make a point or tell a story or, hold a mirror up. And so I read in a book, and then I saw him do it. But I read in a book that was one night he said, "I'm not a comedian. I'm Lenny Bruce," and I was like, that's the title of the play. It's perfect. I forgot what I was calling it before that. It was really interesting. In an early draft, there was some other name. And then I was like, no, that's it. I mean, it kind of says everything, because he was so much, it's hard to encapsulate that man. I mean, he's done more for free speech than anyone, I think, since the First Amendment was introduced to this country. So to me, it's like, what else can you say about Lenny Bruce? He's not a comedian. He's Lenny Bruce. And so I think the title works. What do you think?
No, and I in my readings, he was, I guess, in San Francisco.
Jazz
workshop, and he was performing, and he got busted, taken away, and then got released immediately. Came back and finished his gig, and he got up on stage and said, I'm not funny. I'm not a comedian. I'm a Lenny Bruce, and that was him.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what happened. Yeah, this guy, they hounded him,
They hounded him. He was a genius, wasn't he?
Yeah, there's a great quote from Phil Spector. He said Lenny Bruce died
Overdose.
The police.
Overdose to the police. Yep.
Yeah, and intense, it's intense. But yeah, he was a genius and he was necessary. And he's that one guy, there's always that first guy to change everything. Like sometimes I think about Lenny and I think of like he died in 66 and you think about the Summer of Love and how he didn't get to have that experience, but he really directly influenced that. I know that he had his hand in that in a big way.
Sure.
But didn't get to have that. So there's things that like, and I think there's still conversations and just law. I mean, people are still discussing Lenny Bruce in a big way. And it's interesting. He was a really famous guy who wasn't terribly famous. It's very interesting how like people find him in waves. It's not like Sinatra. Everybody knows Sinatra. It's interesting. Lenny is, and I feel like I'm making it my mission to make sure, at least while I'm on this planet, people are made aware of how important he was. And you said something earlier. It was really interesting. Kitty and I both feel like there's a bit of a channeling going on. Like I really feel that, I'm trying to pick up where he left off and help continue to tell his story for him. And maybe that's why the show works so well, because I've seen people do interpretations of Lenny and it was more about them. And for me, I feel like I'm a vessel giving myself over to him. Hope that doesn't sound too kooky, but you get
No.
Yeah, I feel like I'm here for him, not for myself,
I said it just a minute or two ago, you haunt me because listening and watching and seeing, it's like, I said it again, you're the reincarnate of Lenny, and that's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
To remind everybody, you will be here October 8th and 9th at Camp BASIE.
Yeah, they built a new place called the VOGEL as part of the Count Basie, and it's mostly a music venue. I think I'm the first straight play.
Okay.
Going into the VOGEL, but it's part of Count Basie. Beautiful house, beautiful. I can't wait. October 8th and 9th. And the fact that, I'm a Woodbridge boy, and the fact that I'm bringing it home to Red Bank is like, to me, that's the home run, right? It's like I get to do the show and I get to do it for people I personally love,
Correct.
It's awesome.
Correct. Could you talk a little bit about Theater 68 and how that came about and your work there? That's almost kind of humanitarian work. It is.
20 years ago, I was in LA. I was newly out here, and I had been through a couple of acting classes that left, a lot to be desired. The thing is about in showbiz, it's interesting, or an acting class. See, when I got to Hollywood, I was a young guy and I was like, okay, so I want to be a better actor. I should take an acting class. And so you look in the paper, you see acting class, 400, 300, whatever the price is. And you go, okay, so if I give you my money, I'm going to be a better actor, right? But that's not how it works. Because what happens is everybody's got their approach. And I'm a firm believer, and I don't believe in one specific method. I have many different things in my tool belt that I go to. But I also believe that you have to find a teacher that speaks your language. There's a connection there. I can go to the same class you go to, Calvin, and we're having a very different experience, right? So I went to a couple classes that were not, it was pretty, it felt like really bad therapy, and I have no problem with therapy. I mean, bad therapy. And so long story short, I grabbed a group of people that I knew and loved. And I said, hey, why don't we meet on Monday nights? We'll meet in my living room. We'll do scene work. We'll hold each other accountable. We'll pass a hat around. We'll pay a few things and we'll work together. Well, now that was February 14th, 2001. And now we haven't missed a Monday since.
Wow.
20 years in Los Angeles, over 20. We've done about 110 productions, many premieres, Shanley, David Mamet. And then 10 years ago, August 29th, 10 years ago, we just turned 10. I took the chapter to New York City, Theater 68. So, to me, it's a beautiful community of artists who rely on each other on and off stage. And it's become, I was trying to create a space that I would want to be a part of, right? So when I was new in town, any town, it's like, where are my people? I have to find my tribe. And then, because if you don't have your people, it could go south, you know. And so that's what we created in New York, in LA, New York. And since then, the last couple of years, because of the pandemic, I'm teaching a class now. I don't know if you know about it. I teach every Wednesday on Zoom. It's great. And people all over the world take my class.
Wow.
Yeah, it's called, I don't know if I could use language on this. Can I use language?
Um,
All right, I'll do
no.
that. I'll say that. The name of my class is Stop Effing Acting.
Okay, that works.
Effing's okay, right? They used to let me say that on General
Yep,
Hospital.
that works.
So that's the name of my class. Stop acting, because who wants to watch acting, right? So that's the name of the class, and I do it every Wednesday. And there have been Theater 68 members who take my class because it's much more, when you're under my artistic care personally, that's a very different experience. Like, I take that very seriously. So that's it. You know, we started Theater 68. It's still going strong in LA and New York. You know, Lenny, Theater 68 is produced by Lenny, even the tour. I'm sorry, Lenny's produced by Theater 68. And it's still going strong. It's still a home for many artists, you know.
I like how you came up with the title for that.
Yeah, I had 68 cents left. My
I
friend,
think it's great.
I said to Tommy Calavito, he was my roommate, and I turned to him, I said, Tommy, we should, you know, maybe start a theater group. He goes, yeah, we should. How much money you have? I said, 68 cents. And he goes, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that. And, you know, and 68 cents has become like, it's more, you know, of a representation of what I'm willing to have or not have in order to pursue my passion. It's kind of like you in your past life of what you were doing before you followed what you're passionate about. And so that, I think it's essential for people to realize is, you know, I heard a quote the other day, which you'll know. It's, you know, when we're young, we learn. When we get older, we understand. And I went, now it's very clear to me that we're here for such a short time. It's so silly the amount of time we're here. It's a blink. You look at the hundreds and thousands of years before and hopefully after, depending on what we do with this planet. But all that time, and we're just here for a moment. So embrace it. Do what you want to do. You know, do what you want to do. Find your happiness. You know. So that this is what I'm saying. So 68 represents that.
That's
you know,
great.
You know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. I think about it all the time. The universe, it's been here for billions of years, billions, and there's billions of planets, and the way you know, they give us 78.4 years, and then take our parents away, which pisses me off.
It's unbelievable.
You know, so I have complaints about the way things are, but anyway, moving on.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. Moving on, we're I think about this all the time. How do we, and I'm kind of paraphrasing Crosby, Stills and Nash, because how do we teach, and you're doing that, I mean, you are doing that. How do we teach children about Lenny Bruce, young people? And you're doing that. Didn't you used to you lectured at NYU and stuff?
I have lectured at places, yeah, and
Yeah.
And I've done readings of Lenny. My dream is to take. Right now, we're setting up a national tour. New Jersey's kicking off our tour, by the way.
Oh, great.
Then I'm going back to Chicago. Then I'm going to West Palm. I've already booked those. But my dream ultimately is to take this show to all the campuses around the country. That's where I want to go.
Wow.
That's big picture. After I
Wow.
do the commercial touring of the country, I want to then get myself to these.
What a brilliant idea.
I think it's important, you know. I think it's important. I think children. So when you say children, our young people, 20s and our 20s, you know, this country is in big trouble, and in a lot of ways. And I think instead of me having Ronnie Marmo having another opinion, who nobody cares about anybody's opinion, quite honestly, I'm constantly telling my friends, take that off Facebook. Nobody cares. Okay. So instead of that, what I try to do is share my feelings through the play. So it's like, at least I present something through the show, you know what I mean? As opposed to me, just another guy with another opinion, another crap, you know? So how do we do this? Well, I'm going to do my part by continuing to spread the message of Lenny. But I also think we're in a cancel culture right now. And I think it's a very dangerous time, because what Lenny does, which is a direct conflict of cancel culture, is brings up topics to discuss and have a conversation. Cancel culture is dangerous, because not that I don't think people need to be held accountable, of course, but I do think as a human being, we make choices sometimes, and we need to rectify the issues, and we need to change the behaviors and move forward. I don't think everyone at all times can be canceled, especially on the morality clause. I don't think that's fair. I think, you know, and I just think Lenny brings up conversations that people don't want to have or haven't even been introduced to. You know, there's been so many beautiful race conversations and political, religious conversations I've had, because a direct result of the show, like after the show. And it really is pretty special, because I have said to young people, have you ever had that conversation before? No. Okay.
Wow.
You know, that's happened many, many, many times.
Wow.
As you know, I make myself available after every performance to talk
Yes.
to people who want to talk. I think this is not just some play I'm doing. I have a responsibility here to continue the conversation. So how do we continue to teach people? I'm trying to make myself available. You know, it's funny. It's interesting. I was saying last night to the group of young people, because there's always an impromptu Q&A in the lobby every time I do the show. And I said, what's interesting is, if Lenny had to like fall on a side, it'd probably be on the Democratic side, maybe, you know, at that time. So what's interesting is the people Lenny was defending then are the people I'm now trying to explain him to, because they come more on the cancel culture side. Some of the people who have a problem with me doing this gritty performance are the people I'm going, no, Lenny was defending you. And the other side of the aisle, the Republicans and all those people, they think because Lenny was so out there and direct and in your face and willing to talk, they think I'm speaking for them. It's reversed.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's been very interesting. It's reversed. I went like, no, you got to, but here's the truth. Lenny was speaking for everybody. That was what's cool about Lenny. You couldn't really pigeonhole him into a thought too often. He wanted to bring up a topic and discuss it. You know, as opposed to, this is what I think, you know. I mean, he fought free speech, of course. He believed in that. Do you know, Kitty and I talk all the time. She's like a sister to me. And she told me that her dad believed in the system and the law, completely believed in it until his very last day. He believed
Wow.
in the American justice system.
Wow. Even though he was beaten up.
And you know, when you think about it, you go, really? And he believed that it was the best in the world. And you know, it wasn't the system that was the problem, it was the people. You know, it's like, it's, you know, you get, you know. Anyway, as you can tell, I
know, and so can I. I could tap into you. That's why I was so thrilled when we were kind of setting this up, to tap into you, and to it's priceless, because you are, like I said, it's like listening to Lenny. You know, you've got him down, and you are him. Another provocative question, and it's kind of a spin-off of that Rain Pryor quote. If Lenny didn't die in 1966, if he didn't die, would George Carlin have had the same kind of career that he had?
Same kind of career.
Well, say, would he have had would his career been the same if Lenny hadn't died?
I'm gonna have to say no, only because Lenny directly, well, George took the torch from Lenny, and Lenny, I guess, spiritually handed George the torch. So I'm gonna say no, only that, not that George wouldn't have, because George, I feel like, was very authentic in his beliefs and his thoughts. And I thought he was very much a modern day Lenny Bruce. But like, we would have still had Lenny for that. So would George have been a part of that? For sure. Like, for sure. But I think I would be silly to think that like it would have looked exactly the same.
Okay. Okay.
But that's just my opinion. But again, let me preface by saying, like, George was, in my opinion, I saw him 5 times. I mean, I love George Carlin, and he, you know, he was my gateway to Lenny because I'm a young guy. So it's like he was my way into Lenny. So, which is interesting. But
That is interesting.
yeah, George brought me into Lenny, and so did Pryor, but mostly George. So, but I think Carlin would have still been as brilliant and as authentic. I just think he would have shared that conversation with Lenny because Lenny was still there. So, but you know, that's hypothetical. Who's to say?
Of course it is.
Who's to
Of course
say?
it is. You know, you're talking about. I think I love comedy. I love comedy. It's one of the great arts.
Mm.
George Carlin did one of the, and I keep looking for it, and I've had a hard time refinding it. But he did it, his hippy dippy weatherman thing,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and to me, it was just one of the most brilliant things I ever heard. It was on Johnny Carson, I think, and he talks about he's doing the weather forecast. Actually, there's a line of thunderstorms coming in from western Pennsylvania to eastern Pennsylvania, then into Jersey, and lightning in Secaucus and all kinds of stuff. And then he also goes on to say, and they just spotted a fleet of Soviet ICBMs coming in, something like that. Of course, I killed it, but the way he said it, you know, like, who cares about the thunderstorms? We got to worry about the ICBMs. It was just, I thought it was one of the funniest bits that I'd ever heard. And speaking of bits, I mean, you know, I don't think I ever told you this, but I should just kind of show folks, you know, I am committed to Lenny Bruce. I have all his vinyls, and these are just a couple I picked up, and I do listen from time to time. I have an old fashioned Victrola, and I do listen, and so I used to memorize his bits. And back in '76, I was single, and I went to Club Med, and I was sitting back of a plane, and I'd get up, and I would do all his bits.
Oh my God!
I never told you that. I mean, I was good. I wasn't Lenny Bruce, but I was good, and I was very good in segueing into bits. But if you could just do one little improv skit. I mentioned this to you before we went on air. I got a kick out of this, you know, having to deal with the manufacturer.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say, maybe you could be my understudy, Calvin, if you could do Lenny bits. I mean,
hey,
listen, let's see. I'll send you the script. We'll see if you can. I'll audition you. We'll see how it goes. All right.
Sure.
Dig this, man.
Okay.
If the bedroom is dirty to you, then you're a true atheist. If anyone in this audience believes that God made his body and your body's dirty, well, then the fault lies with the manufacturer.
Brilliant.
You have a body that God made in his image, and now you want to judge some parts as good and some as bad. No, man, I don't see any reference to that in the Bible, man. Yeah. If God made it all, it's either all clean or it's all dirty.
Great.
That's it.
And that's kind of a great way to kind of do a rap.
Yeah, it's great, Calvin.
and just and folks who are listening, it's critically essential that they see you do this and learn more about Lenny. It's his. It's
Thank you, Calvin. Well, listen, come to my New Jersey people. Come see the show, October 8th and 9th. Count Basie Theater, the Vogel at the Count Basie. We're going to have a blast. We're going to have a blast. We really are. I'm going to give you everything I have. Then we'll go sit up a block and talk about it and do whatever we do. But you just go to lennybruceonstage.com. You get all the info, and it's awesome. So please come support. And I can't wait to bring it home.
And for what it's worth, FWIW, when you're taking this to campuses, I know some people at Rutgers, I would nudge them to death to take and for you to perform the play at Rutgers.
You know what, Calvin? I'm kicking off the tour in my hometown on purpose. So maybe when I kick off that leg of the tour, it needs to start at Rutgers. I think.
And you know what? I'm gonna start doing what I can, and I'm saying this right on air. And lots of Rutgers people will listen to this. It should be, Rutgers is one of the great public universities in America, and it's 52% minority, which is a beautiful thing. It's diverse, and Lenny fought in so many ways for diversity.
If we could just keep all our awesome New Jersey people to stay home and go to Rutgers and play on our football and basketball teams, that would be great. They go to these big colleges.
I know.
We need them to stay home.
I know. And in 23 minutes from now, Rutgers is playing Michigan, number 19 in the country.
Yeah, and we probably got one or two Jersey guys on Michigan. Stay home, please.
Yeah, stay home. Thank you, Ronnie Marmo. That's a great way to end. Hey, listen, I love you, man.
All right, pal. I love you too, and I hope I see you there. I don't know if you can make.
I've got my granddaughter is living with us, and my son and daughter in law, and but anyway, I'll be there.
Great. I can't wait to see you. Let me know which night you're coming, and we'll take it from there. And I hope to see everybody. Let's
perfect. Thank you, Ronnie Marmo, so much. Thank you, Lenny Bruce, so much.
Thanks, pal.
Thanks.
You got it.